Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Courtside with Belance and Tennis, part of the Tennis Channel Podcast Network. We have with us 12th year men's head coach of the Tulane Green Wave, Coach Mark Booras. Coach Booras was named head coach for Tulane men's tennis in 2008 and was tasked with rebuilding a program that was discontinued for 4 years as a result of Hurricane Katrina in 2005. Since then, Coach Booras has orchestrated the program's improbable return to national prominence as a top 30 team in the country. We are happy to have him on. He's also a Chicago guy, so he's already on my good list. Please welcome to the pod, Coach Mark Booras. Coach, thanks for hanging out with a fellow Chicagoan and walking us through your journey.
Hey, David, thanks so much for having me. This is exciting to be on the broadcast with you. As soon as I heard you were from Chicago, I had to jump on here. You know, we got to look out for each other. Even if we cheer for different teams, I'm guessing you might cheer for somebody else. I'm not going to talk about it until later, maybe. But great to be here. And now that you even mentioned 12-year head coach, I started looking at the video. Man, I've got some great. I'm getting old. Wow, this is great. Thanks for having me, David.
For those that don't see, and we will eventually release this on YouTube, I'm jealous because I'm looking at Mark. He's sitting with a T-shirt in his backyard right now. And we're recording during the winter months in Chicago, and Mark knows all too well what those winter months in Chicago are. So you're hurting me a little bit, but again, thank you for spending time. And again, I'm interested. I know you're a Chicago guy. Tell a little bit about where you grew up and where you started playing tennis at.
Yeah, of course, David. So I grew up in Flossmoor, which is the south suburb of Chicago. I played junior tennis. I had to travel up north all the time because we didn't have a huge tennis community or a background yet in the south side. So we went up to Willowbrook, and my coach was Milt Newman. And Milt had one of the top programs. It was like we had Milt Newman's thing at Willowbrook. We had Jack Sharp's thing at Aurora. And we had Steve Wild up in Libertyville. We had Steve Casati out up north as well. And so we had, and I'm leaving out 10 other great coaches, but we had so many fantastic tennis programs in Chicago. You could look at the rankings in juniors from 12s up to 18s, and we always had somebody in the top 5 in the nation. It was ridiculous. But Milt was a great fit for us, and he had 2 great players come through. Both of his kids were ranked top 2 or 3 in the nation, and 14, 16s, and 18s are unbelievable. Son Jeff made top 150 or 70 in the world back when he played on the tour. Daughter Chris played at Duke. But anyway, so we had a great Chicago experience growing up in Chicago. We used to travel all the way around. So like I said, we'd go to Willowbrook, we'd go to Aurora, we'd go to Libertyville, we'd go to Midtown, we'd go everywhere there was great tennis and get that exposure to that level. And that was a big thing for us. My mom, we're not a tennis family. Like, my mom and dad didn't play. They just picked it up late in life. And so I'm the last of 4. I've got 2 older brothers and an older sister. Everybody played tennis, and they all played in college as well. My oldest brother played at Marquette. Nick, my sister Pam played at Texas Tech. My brother Jamie played at Ole Miss. He was actually the first All-American tennis player at Ole Miss. And then there was me. So I was last in line. I kind of got the benefit from being last in line because my mom, as she was learning out how to do all the coaching stuff and how to get us involved with tournaments, she got me started earlier with a coach. I was a late starter still. We didn't start playing tennis till I was about maybe 10 or 11 or 12. I remember my first lessons not being until I was about 12. But played a few different sports until that time. And then, played high school tennis at Homewood Flossmoor. Tried to play the huge, national scale of tournaments and whatnot. I was always a little bit of a, I was always tall and gangly, so I was always like 6. It felt like I was always 6'6" or something, but I wasn't. So but I was kind of always filling into my body when I was growing up, and so I wasn't really great at tennis. I played serve and volley when I was 13 or 14. It was hilarious. I had a one-hander. Everybody was laughing, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, this kid, he's serving and volleying, sitting slices, running the net at 14 years old." So my game started catching up with me back in like when I was 17 and like 18s or so, and so I started to bloom a little bit there. My junior rankings, not so great. I think my highest national ranking was 92 or something, which that was in my good year, like on the second year, of your 18s or something. So, I mean, that's nice, but I mean, it's not anything special, but yeah, worked hard and had great coach and had great junior experience and had parents that wanted to invest in that experience. I think that was one of the big things is that, a lot of people talk to me nowadays. They're like, hey, what do I have to do for my kid to get him? I want him to get a college scholarship. Like, okay, how much does he play per week? How many tournaments does he play per month? My mom was just a diehard with it. And she invested basically her whole life in it, which was amazing.
Great to have that parental support, and don't diminish anything in your junior career, because you obviously did some things right. I mean, you played collegiate tennis at West Virginia. I'm curious, what schools recruited you, and how did a kid from Chicago wind up playing West Virginia, playing at West Virginia?
Yeah, great question. I mean, it was kind of interesting. So, like, I kind of played down junior career. I was just a basic late bloomer, but a lot of coaches looked at me as a guy that was going to do something, maybe like I hit my serve like 190 miles an hour and just ran to the net, right? So like, hey, this guy could end up doing something, right? So maybe not 190. I was playing with a wooden racket too. I don't know, maybe a little slower. I like to embellish some stories sometimes. So I remember having a decent tournament at one of the indoor nationals, and a few different coaches started recruiting me my senior year. I was talking with West Virginia. I was talking with Kansas. Scotty Perlman at Kansas brought me in. Yep, there's your little shout out for the alma mater. Let's see, Ole Miss, where my brother went. I talked with Tennessee, Coach DePalmer, just a little bit. So the recruiting kind of picture was interesting because my brother and I were very close. We were like best friends growing up, still are, and we were only a couple of years apart. And everybody kind of thought I was going to go to Ole Miss because he went to Ole Miss, and I kind of always did what he did. I went on a recruiting trip to West Virginia. At the time, if you remember, they were top 15 in the country a couple of years in a row. They had Joby Foley and Paul Mancini, Brad Kelly at 1, 2, and 3. So they had this all-American team of these guys that developed out of nowhere from like that area in West Virginia and Ohio and Pennsylvania. And it was a place where I knew that I was going to go and probably play number 6 or so as a freshman. Whereas if I went to Ole Miss or Tennessee or Kansas, it was going to be a little bit different challenge to get in the lineup because they were just a touch stronger. But I got a great scholarship offer as well. The other schools were, very interested, it sounded like, but weren't coming through on some scholarship offers as much. And that was necessary. It was like important for our family. So while I did really enjoy my recruiting opportunity and opportunities at these different schools, and all these other schools were amazing coaches and whatnot, West Virginia was the best fit for me.
It was a good fit. I mean, here you're a 4-year letterman for the Mountaineers from 89 to 93. Twice served as a team captain, was the Atlantic 10 Conference Player of the Year. Your top 20 singles and doubles player throughout college career. Said it worked out pretty well. Very solid career.
Thanks so much. I mean, it was truly, I guess, the story of the late bloomer, because my freshman year I played number 6. I didn't even start my first couple matches. I remember coach put me in late, and I ended up playing number 6. Had a great freshman year. Lost one match the whole year or something. We were ranked somewhere around 13 or 14 in the country. Then we had all the seniors graduate from those. I was telling you how all these. The strong team we had. So we had a really top heavy team, senior heavy team, and they graduated. And my game started to bump up as well at that time. Coach took a shot at putting me higher in the lineup. I started winning. All of a sudden I won our regional my sophomore year, I think, or got to the finals of it and was ranked top 20 in my sophomore year. So I went from being a very, very average junior player to a college player who didn't really play in the lineup, who did play in the lineup at number 6, to being top 20 player in singles and a little bit higher in doubles. And the opportunity that I got at West Virginia was fantastic because they played a great national schedule. And that was one of the other reasons I chose them, was that they were going to be, in a conference that was okay, but the coach was able to play a lot of great national teams, nationally ranked teams. So we got great exposure, and it allowed me to see those experiences from all different areas.
No, that's great. So after college, you actually played on the pro tour for a short while. You ranked as high as 267 in the world in doubles, top 800 in singles. But after a 3-year career on the pro tour, I mean, you got into coaching pretty quickly, and you've been doing it a long time and being successful at it. Was that something that, in the back of your mind after a great college experience, thinking maybe, you know what, I'll try the circuit for a little bit, but I'm thinking coaching could be something that could be a lot of fun. How'd you get started in it?
Yeah, almost like exactly like you said. It was something that I really enjoyed. I had my college experience was fantastic. We had great guys on the team. We had great coaches. Um, uh, West Virginia is super fun school. So I really embraced the whole college experience that I had, whether it was training hard or whether it was playing great great level of teams and or just enjoying the college atmosphere. And so when I was fortunate enough to play for 3 years, I was again a late bloomer there. Started slow, then started jumping up in the rankings, and unfortunately just ran out of money. Sob story. Here we go with the violin, but ran out of money, and I was going to end up putting my mom in the poorhouse if I stayed out there. Ranked about 260, 70 or something like that. You're not really making anything, and I kept wanting to do something in singles, but I should have just gone and played doubles because it was a lot easier. But I kept wanting to do something in singles and had to play these satellites for 4 weeks at a time, and it was a grind, but great experience. Got to travel around the world for 3 years. Just massive blessing. I mean, I tell people the opportunity that I had to travel around the world was almost as great or even greater of an education that I had in school and whatnot. It's because I was put into different places. I was put into different cultures. I was put into different experiences and forced to learn how to deal with them. Growing up where I grew up is, kind of like a cookie cutter world that we're in sometimes in the U.S. So it was really great for me to get out and travel around the world. And I think that helped kind of develop my character to in different ways and seeing some different sides of things. And then, like you said, the coaching side, as things were getting closer to the end of my playing career, I had to go back and finish my degree because I left after 4 years and didn't graduate. But I always said, hey, I'll go back and finish. But I knew I wanted to get into another area, which was sports psychology, because it's something that I struggled with when I was playing was the mental side of things. I didn't have as much of a grasp of confidence and self-talk and all the different kinds of things that we need in order to be successful on the court and to be the best competitors. And so those things came a little bit late for me, and I started learning about them here and there. And so I said, hey, you know what? So I finished my undergrad. And then I stayed at West Virginia to do my master's in sports psychology. And I said this would be a perfect combination to take into the college world, because so many kids in college tennis, they have this great ability. They're physically just so talented, right? They have great technical facility and ability to do whatnot, but sometimes they just don't know how to think. Sometimes they don't know how to act, right? Sometimes they don't have someone pushing them in those directions. And college tennis, you get to really invest in that. You get to be on the court with the guys every point. You don't talk to them every point, but you can be there with them, walking with them, telling them, hey, listen, let's think like this. If you kind of see them going a different direction, or let's try this on this point, or let's get back to this. So I thought having a sports psychology background as well as a tennis background would be a great combination for a college coach. And I remember looking at the national rankings when I was getting ready to graduate for my master's. I remember looking at it and said, okay, I'll just start calling schools and see who needs an assistant coach. And I guess there was internet back then, but I didn't have a computer. I didn't even have a cell phone or anything. I just remember finding the rankings somehow. And number one that year was Stanford. They won the national title. They beat LSU in the finals or something LSU got to Final Four or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but LSU finished number 2. So I called Dick at Stanford. Of course, John was still there, and so I knew that wasn't going to be a job. But then I called Jeff Brown at LSU, and I was like, "Hey, Jeff, I know you don't know me, from Adam, but do you need an assistant coach?" And it was like October or November, and he said, "Actually, yeah. When can you start?" And
Wow.
And I said, well, I mean, I can start, now or December or January. I just got to finish my degree here this semester. And he says, okay, well, and he didn't know me, but he did some calls, made some calls, on some references I gave. And he was like, oh, well, you actually do know how to play tennis. Okay, great. And so he kind of went out on a whim and hired me. And I basically owe that college career opportunity and coaching to Jeff Brown, who took a chance on me and was a great mentor for me at LSU. We had a great time together. He was obviously a fantastic player, fantastic coach, won 2 SEC titles, two Final Fours. I mean, my goodness, he's done it all. And Jeff Brown was just, more than anything, is a great guy. And so I really enjoyed my time with him for 10 years and owe a lot of what I do now to what I learned from Jeff and while I was working with him.
What a great place to start. And I mean, you obviously were perfecting and doing a great job at your craft. In 2007, the ITA named you the National Assistant Coach of the Year. And then as possibly you started to looking at head coaching opportunities, Tulane was interesting because you had Katrina. So they didn't even have a program for a few years. Talk about how that opportunity came about.
Yeah, that interesting is a great word. Really unique opportunity. I mean, I had started to interview at some of the head coaching jobs that were opening up those previous couple of years, and I was getting some looks from some schools, and I didn't get any offers, but I got to do some interviews and practice that and get a little bit more comfortable with myself and kind of who I was and what I wanted and where I wanted to go with the program. So I was definitely trying to make a jump from the assistant coach to the head coach position. And just previous to that, those last 2 years, Tulane was ranked top 15 or 18 in the country both years. They were really fantastic. They had beaten us at LSU. Us, oh gosh, don't say that. Cut that out of the thing. They'd beaten LSU.
Edit. We'll try to edit that part.
Yeah. They'd beaten while we were there. While I was there, and they ended up making the final 16 of nationals, and had great teams. And so I saw how good they could be. And of course, like you said, Katrina came through and wiped out the program as well as 7 other programs at Tulane. And there was a 4-year hiatus where there was no program. They brought it back, and they said, I got a call from the athletic director who happened to know somebody who knew me, and he said, "Hey, Mark." My friend said, "Mark, are you interested in this job?" And I said, "Yeah." And so I heard a little bit about it from the athletic director, and it was a very unique opportunity that there's nothing really like it. I mean, that's ever been. This is a top 15 program that got washed away. It lost all its players, and now there was this opportunity to rebuild a program from scratch, make it your own, and try to get it back up in the top 15 in the country again, or top 10 or better. So I like that challenge. I like that idea of being able to build something on my own. But the thing about Tulane, I mean, what I saw in Tulane was different than I think what a lot of other coaches might have saw. I mean, there was a handful of coaches that were, kind of like, "Mark, don't do it," and look, man, you just interviewed at this huge SEC job last year. There's going to be another one that opens up. You sure you don't want to wait? And I was like, you know what, this is the right thing for me. And I had a lot of peace about it. I do a lot of praying in my life, and as a spiritual guy, I seek for that some guidance from a higher power there, and I felt like God was leading me down this path to go to Tulane, and because of different opportunities and different things that could be done there, and rebuilding a program and giving back to the tennis community, for something that was lost, right? And so it's like, how can I do that? How can I serve my community? How can I serve those things around me and still be a head coach? And this was just a really unique opportunity, right? And the things that I loved about Tulane that made it even more reasonable for me to look and say, this can be a great program again, is number one, I knew they were going to have an athletic opportunity because they talked about the investment they had in the program. Number two, they have the academic opportunity because they're one of the top 40 or 45 schools in the country every year academically. So a lot of tennis players love that. They see that, the parents see the value in that, and they want that for their kid. So we have the athletics, we have the academics, and then we have what I call the 1-2-3 punch, which is the social or the location. And New Orleans in itself, is a place like that's on everybody's bucket list. and everybody's got to go there. And I mean, it's beautiful weather all year round. You know, we're here in wintertime, and I'm out in a t-shirt and shorts, my backyard. You know, we're going to play outdoor
Thanks for
tennis
rubbing that in right now.
Yeah,
Thanks for rubbing that in.
playing outdoor tennis all year, and you know, I felt like the 1-2-3 punch of athletics, academics, and location was something that there's only a few schools that can offer that. I mean, when I really look at all the top tennis schools in America, I can think of maybe 3 or 4 that have all three of those things. And you know, the culture here in New Orleans is so unique. It's so different. It's so embracing. It's so nice to be around these people down here. It's different than not saying it's not America. I'm saying it's a little different than the rest of America, the way people look at things down here, which is great. They have a real laissez-faire kind of fun, you know, let the good times roll attitude, and laissez bon temps rouler, not laissez-faire. But it's great. We love it down here. So I took the job, and of course it was a huge undertaking, 0 players, and we had just been underwater. So that was trying to recruit with that background of saying, every single recruit I talked to for about 3 or 4 years said, you know, CNN's still showing me videos that you guys are underwater. And I was like, well, those are pretty old videos, you know, but it was a tough uphill climb, but, you know, we were able to, you know, get the kids that we wanted. And I really wanted to make sure we were getting the right kinds of kids. You know, there was no rush to be top 20 in the country or whatever from our administration. They just said, hey, listen, we want the right kinds of kids to build the right kind of program. So my goal was to build the right foundation. We brought in great kids with great academics or super hard workers, and they took a chance on us and came here when there was nothing. And, you know, that first team back, then that second team back, those are the guys we owe all this to. Those are the ones that took a chance and made this happen. And their hard work and their dedication is what allowed us to get even more recruits down the road and get the program to where it is.
Well, let me brag about you and your program a little bit, because you've done a tremendous job. I mean, the post-Katrina era began in 2009, 2010. Since then, your leadership has produced an active streak of 4 consecutive NCAA tournament appearances, an ITA National Indoor Intercollegiate Championship singles champion, who we're going to talk to about in a bit. You got 4 ITA All-Americans in singles, 17 all-conference selections, including 12 in singles and 5 different doubles tandems. Your program has been just as successful off the court, as well as the Green Wave has achieved a perfect score of 1,000 on the NCAA academic progress rate in each of the 10 seasons. The 2016 season was special. You had Dom having his historic senior year. Again, we're going to talk about him in a minute. Became the first Tulane national champion since 1955, claiming the ITA National Indoor Intercollegiate Championship. Dom, who we're talking to, is Dominic Kepfer, also the first in program history to reach #1 in singles in the Oracle ITA National Poll, was a 2-time NCAA All-American, was named the 2016 ITA National Men's Senior Player of the Year. And just in 2019, most recently, you guided the Green Wave to their first ITA National Team Indoor Championship appearance in program history and a 4th straight NCAA tournament bid. You literally took this program from nothing and have accomplished great things. And I know you're super, super proud, and you're continuing to build and do great things.
Thanks so much, David. That's honestly, it's quite humbling to hear that when you start talking like that about all those things. I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, and we've been really blessed here. We've had the ability to do. We've had the support from our administration to do what we want to do in rebuilding the program, and we've had the support from the tennis community around us that have helped create an atmosphere that is very attractive to recruits, and then obviously Tulane itself. And I mean, this is, you know, you read off those stats. I just think of every one of those stats. I think of the guys that were on those teams and the commitments that they made, and the choice, the challenge that they took to come here, right? The efforts that they all put in with those 6 a.m. workouts and the running that we did nonstop and everything. And, you know, all those things can just be attributed to getting the right kinds of kids here who wanted to do something special. And part of the part of the, recruiting spiel I give, I talk to you about that 1, 2, 3 punch, but I say I need kids that want to do something unique. This never happened before. Nobody's ever taken a program that used to be top 15 and then got wiped off the map for 5 years and then brought them back. And I said, in order to do that, sorry about the birds. In order to do that, we need pioneers. We need someone like myself who is looking, saying, I want to be a pioneer. I want to do something special, something unique. I need that in my players. I don't, there's a bunch of great tennis programs where you can go and be part of a top 25 or top 50 program. Maybe you play your second or third year, fourth year. But you come here, you're gonna be part of something that's always growing. And you're going to look back and say, I was part of that team that took us from when we were ranked 190 to 100, and from 100 to 50, and from 50 to 25. And that's going to be on your resume. I took the chance to do something like that. And that's what I talk with my recruits about, and saying, like, that's a really special opportunity. It's not around, that much. Don't hear about programs getting canceled. So we really brought in kids that were hungry. And I mean, I have to give all of the accolades and whatnot to them. They're the ones who did what I said. It was great. They fought it here and there. I'm a little bit of a disciplinarian. I get that. Both my parents are from the old country, so they were very tough on me growing up. And I guess I get a little bit of that old school, old country disciplinarian in me. But, these guys, they listened, they worked hard, they invested, and they saw results. And now, Tulane Tennis is seeing some of the fruits of those labors and some of those things that you talked about.
I want to talk about Dominic Kepfer, because he, really put your program on the map a lot with everything that he accomplished. Mm-hmm. And shout out to Billy Heiser, who I've had on the pod, about a year ago. So for the listeners, check out my conversation with Billy. He talks about Dom as well. I want to eventually ask what your emotions were like watching him in the 2019 U.S. Open when he fought Daniil Medvedev, really, really tough. And he almost won that match. That was a tough 4-setter. And I know Daniil was having some issues with the crowd that night, and I want to get to that in a minute. But Dom's story is interesting in how he ended up at Tulane, and that he wasn't like one of these can't-miss recruits that everyone knew this was the guy that they needed on their team. Talk a little bit about Dom's background and how he ended up at Tulane.
Yeah, what a unique story. I mean, Dom is what a great kid. Just one of these guys that is kind of like the epitome of a college tennis player, right? Is the guy that works his tail off, the guy who's very solid academically. He's the leader on the team. He's super coachable, like a sponge out there every single day of practice. I mean, the guy just absorbed everything and just kept on putting it out there on the court. And the background on the story on how we found him. So I have a friend. His name is Edgar Giffenig. Edgar used to be a federation coach for Germany. He was a national coach for the federation here in USTA and in Mexico. Edgar's coached all the top juniors in the world to #1 rankings. He's seen it and done it. He's coached pro players. He's played pro himself. Edgar's like literally the best coach in the world. And he worked with me a little bit when I was playing on the tour, so we had a relationship there. So Edgar calls me out of the blue, and he's like, "Hey, Mark, I think I got this guy you might want to take a look at." And at the time, Tulane, we were not good. We were ranked 130 or 150 in the country, and that's not bad. Okay, I shouldn't say that, but I mean, we weren't,
where you're
whatever
at
program. Yeah. And so we'd only been around for 3 or 4 years. Maybe it was 2 or 3 years. I can't remember. So he calls and says, "Yeah, I got this guy you want to take a look at." And I was like, "Tell me his name." "Okay, great. What's his ranking?" He's like, "Oh, he doesn't have one." And I was like, he doesn't play junior? He goes, "No, he doesn't really play junior tournaments anymore. He only plays a couple days a week." And I was like, "Okay, Edgar, he knows I'm trying to build a program, right? He knows I'm trying to build a national program." And he's sending me a guy that has, zero experience, it sounds like, right? And ends up, Dominic played when he was 12, 14, and 16 and whatnot, but then took some time off because he was playing other sports. But anyway, so Edgar says, "No, I'm telling you, this kid's really good. He hits the ball really well. He's a good athlete. I think he might pan out for you. He might be a good player." And I was like, "Edgar, he got nothing to go on. I mean, he's not even playing any tournaments. I can't even recruit the guy." And he goes, "Okay, I'm just telling you, I have a video of him and I'll send it to you, but I think he's going to be pretty good." and his German ranking was like 450 or something. And like, if you and I played right now, David, we would be somewhere in the top 200 or 300 in Germany. Like, that's not saying anything bad about German rankings, but I'm just giving you an idea that if you just play enough, you can get a decent ranking. So he didn't have anything to go on. He was recruited by 0 schools. He had a friend that went to an NAIA school that was saying, hey, why don't you come to college? And that was it. And so I finally saw the video and said, okay, I'm coming over, and set up a home visit with him. Watched him practice. Within 3 minutes of watching him work out and practice, I was like, this guy hits the ball as clean as Andre Agassi. It was a joke. I mean, his backhand is literally the best backhand I've coached in 21 years. It's one of the best backhands I've seen. And abilities like with the forehand and the net play, and he just runs like nonstop, just was always in a point. He can, and I was like, this guy, I said to myself, and I'm being honest here, I'm not going to, oh, this guy's going to be top 60 in the world. No, I didn't say that. I said, this guy is eventually going to be developed to be #1 player on my team. And, I thought we were going to be about a top 50 team, top 40 team in a few years. And I said, this guy will play one for us. And I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know if he was going to go on from there, but I said, the ability that he has to hit the ball, and he's going to be at least that good for us. So, next day or that day, I think we made an offer or something crazy, and happened, boom, boom, boom. All of a sudden, commits to us, and he comes over. And so, I mean, unrecruited by anybody, came over his freshman year, had his fall. He was like, he'll tell you, and you get him on one of the show, he'll say, oh gosh, I was so bad in college time. I mean, he wasn't that bad, but he just wasn't super great. He played he had like a losing record in the fall. We were playing him in like B and C draws and stuff. Like, okay, he's going to be okay, And then he got mono like over Thanksgiving or something, and was out for 10 weeks or something like that. Didn't touch a racket, came back in January. Looked like he hadn't skipped a beat. And we put him in at the lineup at 6 or 5. He started winning. He won 15 matches in a row, and we just kind of moved him up through the year. And by the next year, he was playing 1, and he was ranked top 75. Next year, junior year, he was ranked somewhere in the top 25, and then or top 20, I think. And then senior year, he made the big jump. And junior and senior years is when he made the big jump. And he made some good improvements on the national scale in like the individual tournaments and the rankings. So he got to like the semis. He qualified at All-America and All-American championships and made semis after qualifying, which is a long trip. And then, that next year he ended up making finals of All-American, he made finals of Oracle, and then a national indoor. Things were clicking, and started playing well and wins the national indoor title. And we're just like, this is unbelievable. And he held the #1 ranking for 18 weeks straight. In the spring, finished at #3, I believe, with Mackenzie McDonald and Tyson Kwiatkowski and Cameron Norrie, maybe, were top 4. That's a heck of a top 4.
Yeah, not bad company right there.
People are talking about college tennis, the strength of college tennis. There's 4 guys in the top 100. Wow, that's unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Again, he's been successful on the Pro Tour. He's had a lot of good wins. The showcase match was that 4th round, and he qualified in 2019 at the U.S. Open. So he was a qualifier, gets to the 4th round, faces eventual runner-up Daniil Medvedev, who had that unbelievable final versus Rafa. What was it like watching a fellow student compete at that level? How were your emotions watching that match?
Wow, yeah. I mean, what a great week. I was so proud of him. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of. Like, it was like, my gosh, look at this kid. He's doing everything that his coaches are telling him to do. Like things that I told him to do in college, Billy told him to do when he was coaching him on the Pro Tour. He's putting it all into play, and he's seeing that you don't have to be serve 190 miles an hour and hit a forehand like Andy Roddick to be, top 100 or top 50 in the world, right? I mean, you can have a solid game in different ways and think, as long as you're thinking the right way, playing good tactics, believing in yourself, all these things, your game can take off. And he's the perfect example of that. I mean, he's got a very nice all-around game, but it's not like he blows people off the court with his serve and forehand or whatever, like some of these guys do nowadays. But he just finds ways to win. He's the ultimate competitor. And when I'm watching him out there, like you said, that was the 7th match of the tournament, right? I mean, 3 tough quality matches. Almost, he was down match point in 1 or 2 of the quality matches. And
Just shows how razor thin the margins are, like what you just said.
I mean,
down
people are
match
asking
points
me
in
that.
qualifying.
Yeah, people are asking me that all the time. Like, oh, does this guy have the ability to do this? And I said, hey, listen, I think he's got the ability to do it, you know. But I mean, he lost 6-6 again to the guy ranked, 60 in the world. Oh, well, it's a point. It's like you said, razor thin. So I said, just a matter of when he makes the breakthrough, if he keeps on believing, and he can make it happen, right? So he just kept on believing, kept on pushing. And so watching him play that whole week, we had a bunch of Tulane, his teammates came out and flew in for the matches, and it was great. So we had all the support. But I mean, to be able to watch, you talk about the fruits of labors. And I mean, this kid has worked so hard. He's believed and believed and believed. And he just kept, even in his tough times when he was, losing in college, or then he was losing on the pro tour. And then, you just watch him keep on working, keep on believing, keep on giving himself an opportunity. And he's finding ways to get it done. It's who he is as a competitor. I mean, I always kind of joke, but I've always called him a pit bull. Like, I mean, you get him in the ring, and that's a horrible thing. I love dogs and I love pit bulls, but I mean, you get him in the ring, he's a fighter. That's it. He's never going to let go. He's never played a match in college in 4 years where I saw him give up, ever. And mentally, he would go in and out with anger and whatnot, but he never gave up physically. And that's one of the things that just allows him to keep on fighting, allows him to give himself the best opportunity. And to see, we've been telling, listen, it's every college coach has been telling their kids this for 100 years, right? It just happened to be at Tulane with Dominic, right? So it's not like it's Mark Booras that did it to get him there, right? So I mean, you can talk to 100 college coaches and they're going to tell you the same thing. I told the kid, if he does this, and this, and he believes and gives himself, he can have any opportunity to do it. And watching him do it, it was just it was so encouraging for me as a coach as well, because to know that, hey, listen, these things, you don't have to, there's not some secret, that or a pill that you take or whatever that gives you this or your serve or whatever, but there's an opportunity for everybody to do it if you give yourself the best chance. And
Awesome.
I keep going in circles with it, but I'm so proud of him for continuing to invest the right way and believing in himself.
No, 100%. Thank you for sharing that. And I know we've been going for a long time. I don't want to take out any more your time during the day, but I want to end with a couple fun facts, just basically personal stuff. Get to know you a little bit better. I understand your wife's an opera soprano. Do you have any in that in your blood? Are you ready to belt out anything on this podcast?
Well, I can tell you that I've been playing guitar for 25 years. I started when I was on the tour. I traveled with a guitar, and so I used to play in my church band in Baton Rouge. I haven't played with a band in 10 or 12 years, but I still fiddle around with that. And she cringes a little bit, when I sing. I'm like, hey, babe, how does this sound? And she's like, that's nice. That's nice. That's like the worst thing you can hear, right? I mean, from the opera singer, right? Like, oh, no, that looks pretty good. That was nice. I mean, like somebody that's not great at tennis says, I ask, how's my forehand looking? I say, oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
So
all right, we won't put you on the spot. We don't see the guitar out there. We're not going to make you sing. So we're going to move on to the next one. Cubs or White Sox?
Cubbies. So
2016, man, you love 2016, huh?
I mean, I'm a South Sider, so everybody in the South Side's game, Mark, you're horrible for saying this, but my grandma used to take me to the Cubs games. We used to get on the train and head up north and go to Wrigley Field for a day game, and so I was always watch them on WGN every day, and so always Cubbies.
You and I grew up with MJ and the Bulls, so the Last Dance episodes. Real quickly, did you take any of those lessons and talk about those with the kids? I know you had to enjoy it watching that documentary.
Yeah, I mean, that was an amazing documentary, so all my kids watched it and they watched it again, and I was like, that's what I've been telling you guys, because they're like, hey, LeBron or MJ or Kobe or this or that. And I'm like, no, look, that's Michael Jordan, right? But so it was good for them. But here's the interesting thing, like you said, do you use any of this stuff with the kids? we had several meetings with the guys during the COVID times where we said, hey, listen, we're going to talk about this, and I want you guys to critique these documentaries. I want to hear what you have to say about this stuff, because I tell you guys what to do all the time, and I say, hey, think like this, look like this, look what this guy, motivation, this and that. But it was really interesting to hear from their viewpoint, the things that they took from it. And some of the interesting things that they took from it were, they said, you know, the level of commitment and excellence that Michael Jordan had and brought out of everybody around him. And, you know, you talked about Dominic a little bit earlier, and we had guys that were working hard and they were pretty decent at tennis, but his level of commitment and his commitment to excellence spread out to everybody on the team. And they saw that, my gosh, if I don't bring it today on the court to practice with Dominic, I mean, he's gonna be pissed, and I'm gonna ruin his practice. So I better, you know.
No, that's a great point.
But I mean, and they got better themselves, right? But you see that level of commitment to excellence that he had, and I mean, just that drive. That's one of the other things the guys on the team talked about. They said this guy's drive to be the greatest, nothing was getting in his way. He just wanted to keep on going at it, and I could go on for hours about it. Again, I'm obviously a huge fan.
No, and to be honest, Coach, you're not the only coach that I've spoken to about this documentary. A lot of college coaches used that documentary as Zoom sessions at the time with their kids, and everybody could learn from it. So the last question I want to ask you, and now we're going to tie both your worlds together, and you got to pick one, Coach. You got to pick one. Chicago style pizza. We're talking the thick style pizza, right? Or New Orleans Cajun food. You got to pick one.
Okay, well, I'm going to throw a third one in there. So now listen, I've been swearing by this for my whole life. I'm from the south side of Chicago, south suburb. We grew up with Aurelio's Pizza. Aurelio's is the thin crust, the one that wins all the awards for best pizza in Chicago every year. That's what I grew up on. That's what I swear by, is thin crust Chicago pizza from Aurelio's. Chicago deep dish is wonderful, but I was always a thin crust guy. And now that I've been in New Orleans for Louisiana for 21 years, the Cajun food's pretty good. I'm blessed to have a mix of both. So
all right, we'll let you.
You have to get some Aurelio's though.
Yeah, we'll let you slide with that answer. We both of us have some mutual connections, and everyone that I talked to of our mutual connections said they're going to love to talk to Mark, and it's going to be a great conversation. And they didn't lie. I really, really enjoyed talking with you. You're doing such a great job with your program, and you do it the right way. And appreciate this. This was a lot of fun. Thank you for taking time out of your day and sharing your story with us.
David, thanks so much for having me. I mean, this has been encouraging for me as well, and motivational for me as well, to kind of, sometimes you need to talk these things out and hear some things that you did in the past and whatnot, or other things that are going on. And in this tough time of COVID that we have, guys aren't competing, guys are doing whatever, reminds me to really just embrace what I have, embrace the opportunity that I have as a coach, and want to motivate my guys to do the same thing. Hey guys, listen, we don't know what's out there in front of us with if we're going to compete this or that or blah, 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 who's going to get sick, right? Embrace what you have right now, right? Focus on this task at hand, this process, love what you're doing, because you don't know when you're going to lose it, right? And this was a great conversation for me to relive a bunch of that stuff and remember to continue embracing what I have and the blessing that I have to be able to work here at Tulane.
Great lesson, and what a great way to end the conversation. Looking forward to staying in touch with you, Coach, and this was fun. Thank you so much.
Thanks, David. Have a great day.
You too.